Biliyor musun? Erken rezervasyon başladı. Yazın en renkli fırsatları cyprusparadise.com'da. %40, %50 hatta %60'a varan kaçırılmaz indirimler. Erken rezervasyon yap, uçak bileti fiyatına paket tatili al. Uygun fiyata Kıbrıs tatilinin adresi cyprusparadise.com. Zaman akıp gitmeden acele edin. Bir bakmışsınız yaz gelmiş. Cyprus Paradise. Tatiliniz bizimle güvende.
Kalitenin, güvenin, hızlı teslimatın adresi Ancon Furniture. Ancon Furniture ailesi olarak yeni ürünler ile hizmete devam etmekteyiz. Yeni model koltuk takımlarımız, yatak mekanizmaları bir dokunuş ile açılıp bir dokunuş ile kapanabilmektedir. Bir dokunuş ile açtığımız yatak mekanizmasının yatak çarşafı kullanıma hazır, serili olarak içinden çıkmaktadır. Yıl sonuna kadar herhangi bir koltuk takımı alan her müşterimize akıllı sehpa hediyemizdir. En iyi ürün, en iyi fiyat. Sadece Ancon Furniture'da. Bize uğramadan karar vermeyin. En iyisini biz yapana kadar daha iyisi yok.
Hello, welcome to our Ramadan special series. My name is Aysen Djemal and I'm co-hosting with Hussain Hoxha once again. It's that month, isn't it, Hussain Hoxha, where we're doing our Ramadan special program. It's so nice to be back here again. And I know backstage we were talking about how last year, when we first started this, it was right smack bang in the first lockdown of COVID-19. And you really inspired me, Hussain Hoxha. I must admit, I would say it was actually you to make me actually start to fast. I mean, I hadn't really properly fasted before last year, and it was my first year. Now this is my second year, so I'm really thankful to you for bringing me closer to my faith, really, through these programs. So I just wanted to say that, really, before we start the program. How are you feeling tonight?
I'm good. I'm really good, and I want to thank Eurogench for giving us this opportunity this year as well. And yes, last year during the pandemic, we were in a total lockdown, and thousands of people joined our shows, our daily live shows as well. And what we saw a great interest in the youth, especially the younger people, wanting to fast because they're at home. We were going through a pandemic as well, and we suffered huge losses within our community. The Turkish Cypriot diaspora in the UK was one of the largest ethnic groups that lost loved ones, and there's people were asking questions, why is this happening to us? And I think that brought a lot of people to their faith as well. And as you said before the show, people have always got faith. I don't believe in the thing that I've just found my faith. People have always got faith. Without faith and hope, there is no future. So it's good to be back on the show this week. And it's year's gone past, and we're here again. We've got we've got a nice variety of guests as well.
We do, and we're going to be introducing them in a minute. But before we do, I want to make a point that we're going to be doing these programs not only in English, but we're going to be doing it in Turkish. When we're doing it in Turkish, Hussain Hoca is going to be doing more of the talking than me. But definitely, I look forward to that as well. I think it will be a lot more interesting this year. We're going to be catering not only in the English language, but the Turkish language as well, just so that we, cover not just our youth, but the older people in our community as well. Ramadan is the 9th month of the Muslim Islamic calendar. A religious month of fasting is considered to be one of the 5 pillars of Islam. During the month of Ramadan, adult Muslims fast from dusk till dawn, and unless they are ill, pregnant, or diabetic, breastfeeding, or traveling, they don't tend to fast. And obviously last year we actually touched upon this, and I'm sure we will again. I'm very happy to have Yusuf Ahmet with us again, like last year. Welcome, Yusuf, to our program. It's wonderful to see you again. And I remember that we did cover that subject, didn't we? Who should fast and who shouldn't fast. And yet again, Yusuf is going to run through some of the basics of Ramadan and what Ramadan is about. But before we do that, is there anything else you'd like to add to my little sort of encyclopedia introduction of what Ramadan is, Hussain Hoca?
Yeah, you was correct by saying it's the 9th lunar month of the Islamic calendar.
Tick.
And
Tick.
yes, a big tick for you there, Aisha. And it's also a very spiritual month because Muslims believe that the Quran, the holy book recited by Muslims every day, was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad at the age of 40 on the outskirts of Mecca in the Mount of Hira, the mountain called Hira, which would be known later as Jebel-i-Nur, the mountain of light. And it was revealed to him on the 27th night of the month of Ramadan. We say Ramadan in Turkish, which is the Persian way of saying Ramadan in Arabic. And Turkish Cyprus actually use both terms. So we have people who have the name Ramadan, and you have people called Ramazan as well. So we can use both of these terms. And it's a spiritual month. It's abstaining from food, because the Arabic word for fasting is saum, which means to abstain. What to abstain from? What? To abstain from food, to abstain from water, to abstain from sex during the hours of fasting, to abstain from ill talk, to abstain from bad thoughts. And it's a way of perfecting your soul and your body and your mind, and connecting not only to the spiritual divine, but also connecting with people as well. Because the month of Ramadan is also about sharing the bounties that God has blessed you with, being kind to your neighbors, being kind to fellow human beings, not only Muslims, but fellow human beings, being careful how you conduct yourself when you're with others, not swearing. We shouldn't swear, or we shouldn't ill talk throughout the year, but Ramadan is there to perfect ourselves. It's time to cleanse ourselves as well. And there's great benefits of fasting, spiritually and also physically as well. You know, when you have some illnesses, the doctors ask you to fast. It's a way of detoxing your body, and this is detoxing also our spirit and our soul. So I think I've said a few words, and then we can leave the rest to our younger
to Yusuf.
Student of knowledge, Yusuf Ahmet.
I want to make a point though before we go on to that. I really think it's very important for people to remember the fact that it is a cleansing. It's an individual journey, and I think a lot of people forget that. They think that it's like, you know, bound by rules and regulations, but actually it's to actually cleanse our bodies. And I mean, at this point, I just want to put onto the screen Dr. Fulya Yahioglu as well, and she's actually coming on our program. Welcome, Fulya, to talk about the health side of things and what you should do while you're fasting. So I just wanted to quickly introduce her to the program, and we've got some other very, very special guests as well a little bit later on the program. But welcome, Fulya. I just wanted to welcome you here.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for inviting me on this blessed Friday.
Yeah, you're very welcome, Fulya. Thank you very much for coming on. But yes, Yusuf, your explanation, please, as to what Ramadan is about, just some basics for our audiences. And we've got lots of comments coming in already.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to the show. It's an honor to be on here to talk about this beautiful topic. I don't know if there's much more that I can add after that beautiful introduction from both of you. I guess I'd just like to re-emphasize the fact that Ramadan is much more than abstinence from food and drink during daylight hours, but it's abstaining from bad habits such as lying, gossiping, fighting, swearing, thinking ill of others, etc. And you're right, there is a huge spiritual aspect to this, because it's a time of reflection, it's a time of spiritual growth. And from an Islamic perspective, Ramadan is a time to attain what is referred to as taqwa, which is often mistranslated actually as being God-fearing. But taqwa isn't really translated as that. Taqwa is actually being mindful and being conscious of God, who for Muslims, and for many people actually, not just Muslims, but all theists really, is the perfect embodiment of good values, that God is the source of all good, that God is most merciful, most compassionate, loving, kind, generous, forgiving, just. And so Ramadan is a time where we reflect and we try to reconnect with our Creator, and reconnect with those core principles which are within our faith. So I thought maybe I'd add that to the mix as well. If that's
Most certainly. I think we've actually had some comments from our viewers, and I'd quite like to read some of them now, because I think it really links to what Yusuf is saying. So obviously you've had a great influence on our community, Yusuf, with your courses and everything. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later on. But Chanel Ali, and I know that Chanel has been very much part of your course and in support of the Cyprus Islamic Association, has put, mashallah, well done, Aysen, you're also amazing, thank you. Salam love, thank you, Yurgenj, for bringing us all together as a community, and through charity and Islam, bringing us together. And it's so true. We've all met through the lockdown. It's amazing these last 2 years, how we've all grown closer together and made these connections. I didn't know Chanel before COVID-19. So although it's been terrible times, some wonderful friendships have been made during this time. So I'm forever grateful also for the things that have happened. Morsel has put Salam alaikum, hayırlı Ramazanlar Hussain Hocam. So that's somebody talking to Hussain Hoca. And
he's from Turkey.
He's from Turkey. Wow, amazing, amazing. Well, I'm glad that we're going to be doing the Turkish programs as well, so we'll be able to reach out to the Turkish audiences a little bit more. April Mehmet has made a very good point. She's put, it's very important to remember to be kind to all without judging. And I think definitely, April, I think that's something that Yusuf was talking about there. And I think it's very, very important, that we do just take a step back and try and be kind to one another. Obviously always, but even more so during this holy month. Edim has put, well done guys, another great program. Thank you very much, Edim, for watching us and supporting us as always. Fulya, now,
yes,
how do we stay healthy during fasting time? What do we eat at suhoor and iftar? Can you give us some suggestions how to stay healthy and fit while fasting?
absolutely. I think what I'd like to do, first of all, just to let our viewers know what the benefits of fasting is and why we fast.
Yes.
It is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. And we're obliged to fast to those that have reached the age of puberty, unless you're otherwise exempt, as you've outlined. And the key objective is to increase in taqwa, as Yusuf had mentioned, around closeness to God, or consciousness of God. But not only in terms of getting closer to God, but also fasting, particularly during Ramadan, has proven to have real physical health benefits. I mean, we've had scientific studies shown that if there's an intermittent fasting process, it can actually reverse diabetes. And we've seen Dr. Michael Mosley, who's been on lots of the newspapers and lots of programs talking about the 5-2 diet. And I know one of his journeys was around reduction in his levels of sugar as part of his diabetes. So it has got some absolute benefits, fasting. And it's wonderful that our holy book has actually put forward fasting as a way to not only attain consciousness to God, but also the fact that we are cleansing our system. So when you start fasting, it becomes apparent in 4 stages what's going on. Stage 1 is the first couple of days. Your blood sugar levels start to drop. Your glucose within your liver starts getting used up. Your blood pressure reduces. From your body starts to use up stored glucose in your liver, your muscles, start burning fat cells. And this is the hardest stage of fasting, because the first few days, I think, for most of us who fasted, if you're particularly, for instance, you're drinking caffeine, you're drinking lots of tea, coffee, you start getting withdrawal symptoms. You start having headaches, you become tired, difficulty concentrating, and you've got increased hunger, because the fasting state starts about 8 hours after your first meal, by the time it reaches through your alimentary canal. And then after that, after the first week, the body becomes a bit more accustomed to the fast. Your digestive system starts resting and cleansing, because unfortunately, I know throughout lockdown, I've been snacking like crazy. And the thing is, you should only eat when you're hungry. So this is a way of cleansing your body. And it's a great way of cleansing your body. What you're doing is actually your white blood cells start being produced, increases in your body, and your organs start to regenerate as cells go into stress because of the lack of sugar. So that's sort of stage 2. Now, stage 3 is a little bit more kind of your energy levels start to increase. The healing process of the body becomes more efficient as your body starts to repair any damaged cells. Your colon, liver, kidneys, skin, lungs, they eliminate all the toxic waste as part of a detox process, and you start to feel a lot better. Now, by the stage 4, which is the last 10 days of Ramadan, your body becomes accustomed to fasting, and there is improved memory and concentration, and your organs start finishing off the repairing process, and they carry on even after you've gone back to eating normally, and your body becomes maximized. Scientific studies have shown that intermittent fasting causes increased cognition and memory during those periods. So it has a fantastic effect, fasting, for the body. But obviously, we have to fast in a healthy way. And as you've mentioned, we need to not eat between sunrise and sunset, and that's quite a long time. So that's about 16 hours that you're not eating or drinking. So you have to be absolutely careful and try and kind of plan what you're going to be eating. Obviously, drinking lots of water throughout the time that you're allowed to drink. So I think one of the things that we need to do during suhoor is that you would tend to eat things that have a low glycemic index and are complex carbs. So things like oats, whole grain, proteins, so eggs, things like that. And the ideal breakfast for suhoor would be having some oats or porridge. Porridge is a great thing to have.
Sorry to interrupt you, Fulya, but can you just give, because a few people have said what is suhoor and what is iftar. So while you're speaking, I know that you know what suhoor is. So if you could just explain what that is, just because Abi Hussein's just put that up.
Right.
Some people don't actually know what that is. So that's when you get up in the, if you could explain.
Yeah, suhoor is when it's before your fast starts beginning. It's normally about 10 minutes before, 10-15 minutes before the prayers, and suhoor is the time when you have a main meal in the morning, or your main breakfast, whatever, in the morning, and iftar is when you break your fast. So when it's sunset officially, so that's when the iftar prayers, Maghrib prayers are there, and then that's when you would break your fast and eat something.
Yes.
So suhoor, the morning the morning or the meal before sunrise, it would be rich in complex carbs. So oats, as I said, porridge, dates. Dates are fantastic, and food rich in potassium. So potassium is excellent because it's an electrolyte, and it will help you to not become dehydrated, because that's part of the process. When you're not drinking water throughout the day, you will get dehydrated. If you have caffeine, tea, coffee at suhoor, what it will actually do is that it's a mild diuretic, and it will make you go to the toilet a lot more. And it is a central nervous stimulant, so it's not actually good for you to have that. And even after iftar, I mean, we do not advise you to be drinking tea or coffee, although I think, as we're so used to it, we probably will drink a cup or so in the evening. But I mean, it's probably not best in the morning, because that will cause you to become a little bit more dehydrated. And the whole point is that you want to have meals that would keep you going throughout the day, and you take in water as well. After iftar, you drink plenty of water. No fizzy drinks, because fizzy drinks will dehydrate you. No over-processed foods, so no donuts, no fried foods at iftar. You've got to perhaps have kind of high rich foods in proteins, vegetables, green leafy vegetables. Try and have small meals if you can. Don't overeat, because overeating will make you tired. It's not good for your body after you've fasted throughout the day. And I think you just have to make sure that you're not having too much salt as well, because that's going to dehydrate you when you stop fasting. When you start fasting throughout the day. So these are all the things that you should be doing. I mean, plain yogurt during the iftar is excellent. I mean, it's a high rich source in protein, and it will fill you up, and it will stop you your stomach from sort of what's the word? It will line your stomach, so it will help you and stop you from bloating. I think the problem is if you start getting bloated, it's very uncomfortable. You're fasting all day. It's not good. So I think what you're trying to do is, you're not trying to eat too much in the evenings. What you're trying to do is eat healthily, and what you're trying to do is to eat foods that are beneficial to your body. So trying to keep it very light and not too heavy. So no processed food.
Yes, I mean, that's really, really helpful. We've got lots of people, making comments here and saying how helpful it is, Fulya, that you're, giving us some of these tips, because I think it's very much needed. And as we're going through these programs, I think we'll always tap into your knowledge. And a little bit later on, we're going to actually talk about the fact that you were part of Yusuf's course as well, and you got 100% attendance. So we've got to talk about that as well, your feedback on that. But thank you very much. Some top, tips for us while we're fasting.
Can I just say, I mean, I have written something up. So if people are interested, I mean, I'm happy to share the tips and why we fast, if it will help people. Definitely.
Yes, definitely. 100%. We'll get back to that if you want, maybe nearer the end of the program as well. And generally, we can talk about that. We can allocate a time where we do that during this month, for sure. Thank you very much for that, Fulya. And I know you're always available, whenever I've, asked a question on a thread or something, you're so happy to give your time and actually inform us about a variety of things. So thank you very much for all that you
happy
do
to help.
Community. We really appreciate it. April Mehmet has put, I'm so happy I joined the course. Hussain and Yusuf is very knowledgeable, and I have learned so much already. Yes, and we're going to be talking about that course. Thank you very much, April, for your comments. She's put, food is important as what you are is feeding your mind and soul to be mindful of what you are eating. So it's important to eat nutritious food. What you eat affects not only your body but your mood, and that's very true, isn't it, Fulya? Yeah, I totally agree with that.
And I think she's absolutely right that we have to be mindful when we're eating. So
Yes.
I think once you've not eaten for the whole day, I think to take small bites and to really appreciate the food.
Definitely. I'm so glad that we did this at the beginning of Ramadan, actually. It was something that we were discussing when we were planning these programs, and we thought that we really needed this this year to have your guidance as to what to eat, because I think it's very, very important. And as we're coming out of lockdown, we are all feeling a little bit more sensitive emotionally. So I think what we're putting in our bodies, as well as fasting, that sort of cleanses us. It's also important what we're actually re-putting back inside of us. So I think very, very helpful. Hussain Hodja, what I'd like to move on to next is with yourself is the lost traditions. We spoke about this last year, but you're very knowledgeable, and you've done a lot of research on the history of Cyprus and how our grandmothers and grandfathers actually celebrated and withheld Ramadan. Can you tell us a little bit about that time and, you know, what the lost traditions are?
Before we do that, I just want to say thank you to Fulya. Lots of people responded to those comments, Fulya, and maybe if you can share that information with us, maybe have the link underneath this thread, and also if you can put it in some of the main social media sites on Facebook that are following our works, maybe on the Cyprus Islamic Association page. Would really appreciate that. I mean, I learned a few things from you today, which was really good to hear. And let's all be healthy in Ramadan as well. So yes, forgotten and lost traditions. This may come very strange to some people who are watching the show this evening, but we don't have to go that far back in Cyprus history to see that Ramadan was an important month in our society. We don't even have to go back to our grandparents' times. We can just go back to our own parents' times. For someone who, like me, who's now half a century old, 50 years old. So speaking to my mother, and she left Cyprus when she was 11 years old. So she would have left Cyprus in 1960. And asking her what Ramadan was like, she said it was a very collective month where people all fasted. You would actually look down upon if you were not fasting. And she tells me these funny stories as a kid, how she would, the children would make out their fasting and then go behind the house and eat apples and make out to their nanas they were fasting, but they were young children. So it was a very collective spiritual time, and everybody fasted. Even the men fasted. I hear these stories about my grandfather when he was traveling, and he was a coal merchant, and he would be fasting, and he'd always say to me that he'd always try to go to the next Turkish village while he's traveling by camel or by donkeys to Nicosia, Lefkosia, because it would be the only place where you'd be able to have a decent meal. And people frowned upon you if you ate and you drank in the daytime. And if you look at some of the British writers or foreign writers who speak about Cyprus in even in the colonial period, from 1878 to 1920 to 1930 to 1940, most Turkish restaurants would be closed, or the lokantas or the cafes would be closed throughout Ramadan. And Lefkosia would be like a ghost town in the daytime. And in the evening, it would come alive, because in the evening, after the evening prayer, after the sunset, the call of prayer, and people broke their fast, the women and children, the men would go to the mosque, to their local mosque, usually to the Selemiye mosque if they were living in Lefkosia, which was the main mosque at the time, Hagia Sophia, known as Hagia Sophia before the 1960s. And it was a cathedral, and people would go there and they would participate in the Teravih namaz, which is like the evening prayer. And then they would come out, and there would be it would be a festival feeling. The whole Çarşı would be full of people selling candy floss or different types of sham işi, traditional Turkish delights. There'd be shows. There'd be the Karagöz shows, which are the puppet shows. There'd be so much entertainment. There'd be people telling stories, storytellers in the squares, and people would be entertaining themselves throughout the evening, because people would be actually out and about until the early hours of Sahur, which was nicely explained by our sister Fulya, before the morning, before the breakfast, before the fast begins. People would be actually out and about. people would be going to the local shrines. There was lots of shrines in Cyprus dedicated to saints. People would go and light a candle or go and say a prayer. And it would be a collective form of worship. And people were very, very close to their neighbors. So if they had someone who was a widow in their neighborhood, and especially if there was orphans around you, if you knew a family that were poor or had no husband, or there was a widow, or he was looking after his children, or the wife was looking after children, the family would make sure there'd be enough food for everyone to share. And I remember, especially the older generations, like our nenes or our big nenes, they would not break their fast until they knew that food had gone to their neighbors first. And I remember, especially my grandmother, especially if you lost a child. So I remember she was saying to me, did you give so-and-so to that neighbor? And have they taken the food? And I said, yes. She goes, now I can eat, because I know they will be saying a prayer for my dead son or my husband. And that was they're very spiritual people. I'm not going to say Turkey Cypriots were always over religious, because they wasn't. There was times when a lot of things were lost, but they were very, very spiritual. And it was a very spiritual month. And we have lost that, but inshallah, we are actually reconnecting to our past. And that's what we're here for. We're not here to make everybody over religious. We're not even asking anyone to believe, but we're asking people to connect to their past. Because there's a beautiful saying in Turkish: if you don't know your past, you will never have the future. Geçmişini bilmeyen geleceği de olmaz. So we need to reconnect to our past, because our past has full of morals, ethics, and we can learn from our ancestors how to be good people. Another thing as well is that the great tolerance. We have to remember Cyprus was a multicultural, multi-faith country. It was not just Turkey Cypriots and Greek Cypriots. There's Latins, there's Maronites, there's Armenian. There were different denominations of Christians, and there was mutual respect. And so in the British period, during Ramadan, people were actually only working half days. Fridays was a day off. The British colonial powers would actually give the Muslim children a day off on Friday, so they can stay home. Yeah, it was the weekend. Friday, Thursday, and Friday was the weekend. It was later changed, of course, but there was amazing coexistence and respect between different communities. That even the Greek Cypriots, that are Christian neighbors, would actually cook food and give to their neighbors during Ramadan. These are some of the many stories I've collected in interviews, and we need to keep this alive, and we need to show how spiritually connected we was to our past.
Most certainly. Oh my goodness, I love all those stories. I love the story about your grandmother. You know, I can very much believe that she wouldn't eat until her neighbours, she knew that they were okay. And obviously people that were less fortunate than she was, she made sure that they were okay first. There was that real community feel. And I feel like we're getting back to that, most certainly, Hussain Hoxha, but no more, you know, like I said before, I think it's people like yourself that's brought the community together. So thank you very much. And Fulya, you've just sent me, the production team have just said they are happy to publish any articles on their website with your information if you choose to do that. Before we move on to Yusuf and his course, there's a lot of comments coming in. Zuhre Halil Omer has put thank you. Susanna has put thank you, Fulya. Chanel Ali has put this has helped me so much. Thank you, Doctor. You're amazing. Please, can I have your content? So people are asking for it, Fulya. Sevilla said thank you to all of you. And Fatima Mehmet has put, I have been practicing intermittent fasting for a while now. I know that because she's my soul sister. And has been beneficial to my health condition. And yes, for her health condition, it's very true. I think that intermittent fasting has really helped her, and it's really helped me as well, getting into the swing of fasting at the beginning. Like what you were saying about the caffeine, I'm so addicted to having my coffee that, you know, at first I was getting pounding headaches, but as you go along, it gets easier and easier. I promise it does, but it is difficult. But you know, it's all part of the cleansing, like Hussain Hoxha said. Now we're moving on to my favourite part now, I think, Yusuf, about your course. because it's been such a success. You've brought so many people together and you've developed people's faith. That's how I like to say it. Not that you've brought them closer to their faith. I think we always had faith, but you've obviously reintroduced it to people, developed their knowledge, and made them find Islam a little bit more. Can we have your words on it first, Yusuf, before we get some lovely guests on to tell their stories of how they sort of came to you and were part of your course as well?
Sure. I just want to say that this is a fantastic program because we've spoken about the body and the soul, and now we're going to talk about the mind as well. Because the course is actually entitled An Invitation to Think. And similarly to how, you know, it's important that we take care of our physical bodies and our spiritual selves, we also need to make sure that we feed the intellect. So the course actually isn't just for people of faith. It's actually for all people, regardless of their faith. So we have people on the course that are atheist or agnostic. We have people that are Christian. We have people from all walks of life. We have Turkish-speaking people. We have non-Turkish speaking people. We have people from all over the world that have actually enrolled, from Australia, Turkey, Cyprus, parts of Europe, and America as well. So people are actually waking up at ridiculous hours to tune in, which is lovely. The course is something that I designed in a way where it kind of follows a particular path. So it starts off the first session on why am I Muslim, and that's quite a personal session actually, where I talk a little bit about my own personal story, but also we look into why some people actually believe in God. Is it something that people just blindly believe? Is it some kind of, you know, God of the gaps argument, or is there some philosophical reasons for believing in God? Are there scientific signposts to the transcendent? And then the second session is more around the life of Muhammad, upon whom be peace, a man who many of our community are named after, with the name Mehmet. We have people that are named after his daughter Fatima, people who are named after his mother Emine, his father Abdullah, his close friends Ömer, Osman, Abu Bakr, and of course Ali as well, right? As well as many others. So we all carry these names, and we all have held him in very high regard throughout history. But unfortunately, over the last few generations, for various different reasons, we no longer actually, many of us don't even know who this individual is and what his life was and what he stood for. So we covered that. And then we looked into the Quran. What is the Quran? How was it revealed? How was it compiled? Is it something that is, you know, just something that's recited, or is this something that we should reflect upon? And what are some of the key takeaways from the Quran? What are the messages? These are signs for those who reflect, who ponder, who cogitate, who meditate, who think. Are you not going to think that the worst of creatures are those who do not use their intellect? So it's calling people, it teases the rational faculties of the mind. And then we move on to beyond the Quran. How do we understand our history? How do we understand the life of Muhammad and what he taught and what he did and what he didn't do? And this is an area called the ahadith. Ahadith is essentially narrations that are attributed to a particular individual. And you've got some hadith which are authentic or sound or weak or even fabricated. And we look into that and we talk about how Muslims throughout history have used methodologies to determine what the historicity was at that time. And then we look at law. One of our topics was an introduction to Islamic law. What is halal, permissible, allowed, permitted? What is haram? What is impermissible, prohibited, forbidden? And is it just as simple as that, or are there actually lots of other categories in between? And that's what we go into, right? So we spoke about things that are recommended or amoral or discouraged. And then we're going to be going on to, that's kind of where we are in the course at the moment. We then also did cover the significance of love, compassion, and mercy within Islam. It's something that often we don't hear about, but it's something which is central to the Quran, central to God's nature, and central to the Islamic faith. particularly given that all surahs in the Quran, all 114 bar 1, begin with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, in the name, by the name, with the name of Allah, the most compassionate, loving, protecting, caring, generous, the most gracious. And it's still mentioned 114 times. The surah where it's not mentioned at the beginning, that there's another place in the Quran which makes up for it, halfway through a surah, or partway through a surah, should I say. And this is a phrase that in fact many Cypriots are familiar with as well, but we've never actually stopped to think and reflect upon what it actually means, and that God is actually introduced as a loving, compassionate God, not a God of hate or vengeance. And then what we will be going on to, the last 4 sessions, is fighting against extremism, which I think is a real problem. People, unfortunately, if they do want to look into their faith, sometimes they don't know where to go. And we're living in a world now where we have the internet, which is a blessing, but can also be a problem as well. There's a lot of information out there, and some of that information is not reliable. We'll also be looking at music and art and culture and the diversity of that within our faith, and how actually all of cultural customs are a part of our faith, and how different people manifest their faith in their own way. We'll also be looking at Christianity from the perspective of a Turkish Cypriot. And I think that's also quite important. And then finally, the last topic that we'll be covering is Islamophobia, which is a threat to all. So that's the course, an invitation to think, open to all. And I'd just like to say that I'm really honored that so many people actually enroll. We had over 100 people enroll on the course. We capped it at that. And it's been lovely. People are coming on a Tuesday evening with their cams on, and particularly during lockdown, right? It's just nice to be in a virtual classroom with people, and engaging. And it's just lovely to see so many people thinking about things critically and eager to learn more. We have a WhatsApp group as well, and some of the questions and the messages, I'm really proud and appreciative that people within our community and from other communities are engaging in topics like these with respect and civility.
Yes, I mean, it sounds amazing, and congratulations on having such a, successful course. At this point, I'd really like to get Melda and Honey on. It's great to have them on our show. If they could come on, because they're going to actually speak about their personal experiences of coming. Welcome, Melda, and welcome,
Hi.
Honey, to the program.
Thanks
How are we
us.
tonight?
Good, thank you.
Very well, thank you.
I don't know who would like to start first. Melda, would you like to start first and tell us your journey, a little bit about background of how you sort of got more curious about your faith, and how you joined onto the course and what it's done for you?
Okay, hi. Thanks for having me on. I feel quite honoured. Well, my journey started last year, although, as we've all said before, the faith has always been there, but I just didn't know how or where to bring it about. And last year, at the beginning of Ramadan, Hussain Hoxha started doing, I think it was a little bit before Ramadan, he was doing some live shows, and it took my interest. And then along with Yusuf, actually, they were doing shows together with Yusuf. And it took my interest, and I was watching those. And then Ramadan was just around the corner. It was just going to start. And I thought, you know what, this is a really good time for me to connect. I've always wanted to, wanted to know more about Islam. Wanted to know how to pray, because I didn't even know how to do namaz, not pray, but namaz. And it was, anyway, I fasted, and it was lockdown. So it was an ideal time to do it. And it was absolutely amazing. Kept watching the shows. And then I think towards the end, Yusuf done one course, which was to do with, what was the first course? It was a study group, and it was basically to teach us, which I didn't know Al-Fatiha. I didn't know how to recite that, or I didn't know. My mum used to pray, but I never was ever taught. So I wanted to learn. Anyway, through the course, which we was taught how to do perform namaz and what to pray and what to say during each stage, which was absolutely amazing. And I've continued since last year to try and build up to performing namaz 5 times a day, but I haven't quite got there yet. But I'm trying. But I what can I say? What else can I say?
It's been amazing, basically. You're smiling
It
and you're
has,
full of
it has,
energy. So that says a lot to me. Says that it's,
Thank you.
this is what it's about, isn't it? It's an individual thing. And it's amazing hearing your story. It really is. You're so positive. It makes people want to, be part of it, really.
Well, absolutely, because I'm not like, because I started this so late in my life, I'm not like a child or a teenager. It's quite further on in my years to have started, and I felt quite sad that I hadn't started it sooner. Like I didn't sort of push myself to learn sooner, but then there was no outlet. There really wasn't, or I didn't know where to go. So having Hussain Hoja and Yusuf, giving us this opportunity and this outlet and this platform to approach them and to learn from them has been absolutely amazing. I feel so honored to be part of the admin of Cyprus Islamic Association. It's such a wonderful thing to be part of, and it's made me I feel like I'm getting closer. I have gotten closer to my faith and also closer to Allah, but I feel that how can I word it? I feel
empowered. I feel like
empowered. Definitely empowered. I feel like me as a person, I've changed for the better. Not that I was ever a bad person, but it makes me think twice about thinking about what's going to come out of my mouth before I say it. We can all be very judgmental and not mean it in a bad way, but I now sort of take a step back and I think, okay, before you open your mouth and before you think badly of anyone or whatever you want to think, try and look at it from their perspective. So it's made me a better person. It's made me change a lot of my characteristics that I didn't really like. But like I said, I wasn't a bad person, but I feel like being closer to God, it does humble you. It does make you see things in a whole different light that you probably wouldn't have noticed before. But I really wholeheartedly thank Hussain Hoja and Yusuf for giving us this platform, because I still would have been back there not knowing where to go, who to approach. And on the study group as well, there are many people who are my age or older, and it makes me feel okay. I don't feel so bad now. I felt like I was one of very, very few people that was very behind in learning about their faith. Like I said, with me, it was always in the background in our family, but my mum prayed like in her room privately, and I didn't know what she was doing exactly, like what was going on, and she never explained it to me, and I felt very I didn't want to ask. I felt stupid to ask. I don't know if that makes sense. I felt really and years went on, and it just went on and went on. And, I've come to this stage. Obviously, things happen for a reason, and you meet people for a reason. I'm a true believer of this. And I've got some wonderful people. Honey, my little sister on the side there, I love her so much. And if I hadn't been on this course, I wouldn't have met her. So, and Chanel as well. So I met some wonderful people, and I feel very honoured to have such amazing people around me.
Oh, it's a very heartfelt story. Thank you very much for sharing it with us. I don't know if Hussain Hoja wants to say anything as well at this point.
I do actually. I actually want to thank you guys, because to be really, really honest, I was thrown in the frying pan in the beginning of the pandemic. Yeah, I was. And I never had any time. I had very, very little time to go on social media, to monitor the groups that I created. And within a short space of time, these young people, beautiful people, as you can see, connecting with one another. And Melda's been very, very humble here, because she's done more for the community than she's telling us. So she's been involved in charity work, and we as the Al Hashim Trust, we're very open to support our local charities, and we always are going to be like that. We always support people like Chatter, we support the mosque, we support other groups as well. But what Melda did, and Honey and everybody else, they came on board and they took such a heavy weight off my shoulders. I can't tell you. So I didn't have to come home to monitor my Instagram, my Facebook page. It was all being done for me, and they were organizing things in the background. And you know, they done an amazing course that unfortunately I was not able to go on, but Yusuf led this course. And you know, it makes me really feel proud that people went on this first course and they connected to their culture, they connected to their faith. People that never knew how to pray can pray now. They know what it means. When you go to the cemetery now to do a Fatiha for your loved one, you know what you're actually saying. And when you pray and you say Fatiha, you actually know what you actually, when you're conversing with God, you actually understand word by word what the words mean. But what I want to say very quickly to Melda and to Honey, to Chanel, to lots of people, because we've got so many people on the admin now. I just want to thank them all because they've taken so much weight off and we've got an Instagram page now. The Instagram page got over 1,000 followers in 6 days. That's telling you something. We are connecting with people.
Most certainly. Honey, we want to hear your story now because a lot of people have been speaking about you, but finally you can actually tell us your story.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much for waiting patiently to tell us your story. But tell us how you sort of found out about the course and a little bit about your journey as well for our audiences.
So for me, I think faith has always just been part of who I am from a very young age. But I've always been looking for answers. I'm very inquisitive. I like to question. And when I was young, I think that rooted from my mum and my nene the most. Like we would have the bedtime prayers, and Bayram would always be a big issue, food and family. And, you know, when our loved ones would pass, we'd have the medlits and we'd go to the cemeteries on Arifeh, and all that kind of thing. I knew that was part of my faith. We used to use words we still use words like mashallah, Allah, shukr, inshallah. I didn't actually know what they meant when I was little, but I knew they were the words of God. You know, they were part of our faith. And I think as I moved towards my teenage years, the dialogue with God has always been there. The connection with God has always been there. But I think I lost a little bit of my roots, or I wasn't identifying as a Muslim or as anything. I wasn't connecting God with a religion. God was just connected to me. And I think at that time I was just busy trying to grow up, I guess. And I had lots of different friends, lots of different religions. Like one of my best friends was Sikh. So we used to spend a lot of the time at temples and stuff like that. Going forward into university, that's when I started to really come back round to my faith. I just felt like there was something missing, and I just was searching at that point. And the more I searched, the more I seemed to get conflicting knowledge from people. Like our elders have gone, and I think when your elders leave you, they leave with the knowledge, the experience, all their stories. You can never get that back. And it's like by that point when I was looking, you know, my grandparents unfortunately had passed on, and it was tough. So I was reaching out, but I didn't feel like there was anybody knowledgeable enough in my community that I would be able to just go and say, hey, I'm feeling like this. Is this the right thing, or can I question this? It was very much, I grew up in East London, so it's very much like I had a lot of Pakistani friends, Bengali friends, and I didn't feel like me, the way I look, the way I am, I could just rock up to the mosque and be like, hey, can you tell me about Islam? Like, it was very difficult. Yeah, so after having my children as well, I just feel like every year I would just be looking and searching, learning how to pray, reading the Quran, or trying to understand it, which is difficult when you don't have someone to help you. So that's been like snail's pace. Fast forward Ramadan 2020, just before that, so we've got this massive pandemic going on, and I actually said to myself that I'm going to come off social media now. I'm not listening to no more of these scholars. I can't do it. I need to just pray on it. That's what I said. I need to pray on this now. And you know what? I prayed on it, and somehow I managed to watch one of Hussain Hodja's live shows going forward, and I was just like, I was seeing in the comments all these like-minded people. I was like, oh my God, there's other Cypriots who are thinking the same as me. I'm not alone.
Wonderful.
And it was really enlightening for me. And we watched those shows as a family, and it's made an impact on my family and my kids. And then I met Chanel, who's been wonderful with all of it, and Melda, and we I was invited onto the study group with Yusuf, and that's just when it all just blew up, because for me it was amazing for me, because there was like 10 sessions, so we went through everything from like learning in depth of what Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim meant, like Bismillah. Honestly, when you just read the translation, it's speaking about God and his attributes in a lovely way. But when Yusuf breaks it down to you, it's like it's really amazing. So when there was a second course coming up, the invitation to think, there was like, I was so happy, and I was like, and I knew this, I was not gonna miss this course, and bonus because Hodja's on this course too. So that's even better. I'm glad that they're both like collaborating together, because it's amazing. They both explain everything in such great detail, whatever the topic is. You don't feel stupid to ask questions. There's no judgment. It's just such a good environment to learn, and it's just good for anybody, not just for me who's looking to learn about my faith, our faith. It's anybody who wants to know, anybody who wants to be educated. You're going to come, you're going to be educated. He's going to give you facts, the source, and he's going to also teach you how to ask questions. Like, I wanted all these answers, but I never had any of the questions. So that was the problem for me. And now I'm finding out the questions to ask. Then I will get the right answers, because if I don't know what I'm looking for, then I'm not going to get the answers for it. And that's really kind of what Yusuf and Hodja has taught us on this course. And I was really praying that there might be a third course coming up, but I really think
I'm sure there will be. I'm sure there will be, but maybe this summer lockdown, you might be able to do a few, lectures face to face. We'll move into that. It's been absolutely wonderful, Melda and Honey, having you come on the program and give us your thoughts and your personal journeys and stories. Thank you very much for sharing that. On our program with Hussain Hodja, and also with our audiences. I'm forever grateful. Thank you very much. We're actually going to have to wrap up a little bit, because we're running out of time. Would you believe it? It's been a whole hour that we've been talking, and we wanted to finish up 45 minutes. That was the plan. So backstage, they're like thinking me on, like, we've got to go on to the Q&A part of our program. But thank you very much, Melda and Honey, and hopefully there will be a part 3, and you'll come on again and talk more about your stories, and obviously all the things that you're doing within the community. Thank you very much. Thank you. We're moving on now to the Q&A. I don't know, Hussain Hodja, if you want to just look at some of the questions, or if there's any questions in particular that you'd like to focus on that we could look at, just wrapping up at the end of the program.
I can't see any questions, unfortunately, because my system's crashed in front of me. So
okay, I
do want to say that this has been one of the best programs I've actually been on. Maybe it's because there was more women than men.
Yeah.
Definitely, that's definitely the reason. And I said that, didn't I? When we were planning these programs, I said, I want to see more women. And you were both like, of course. Fulya, while as we're going through the Q&As, the very last thing that I'd like to ask you is your take on Yusuf's course, because obviously you've been going, you're 100% attender. I expect Yusuf to give you a certificate for that. A gold star. That's my teacher hat coming on.
Okay,
but what was your experiences before we quickly go on to the Q&As?
I think it's been a fantastic experience. I mean, like Honey and Melda before me, I mean, I always had faith, and Islam, I loved Islam. I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful faith. It absolutely is. But I think coming from a very scientific background, I wanted to come on the course, and I'd seen Hussain Hodja and Yusuf on the programs, and I felt like they were very much like-minded people like myself. And I, particularly on the course, I wanted to critically think a lot more. I just haven't had the time to do what I wanted to know more about my faith. I believe I have my faith, but I wanted more around it, the structure, the critical appraisal of it. You know, I've questioned my faith at times. Some of the things that have happened, you question, but it's a beautiful faith. I mean, I think I'm so honored that I was brought up as a Muslim. I mean, that's all I can say. It is such a beautiful religion. And I think, you know, everyone should feel that way. Yes, we hear all the horror stories, we hear all the things around terrorists, etc. But in the crux of it all, Islam is love. It's absolute love. So I found it exceptional. I think the course content is fantastic. I mean, Yusuf's done a fantastic job. I'm really honored to be part of the program.
He has, right. We're on exactly an hour. I'm going to quickly scroll through and read some of these questions because the audiences I hear want some answers. April Mehmet has put, can't wait to continue on the course after fasting season, and it would be great once the course finishes if we could continue reading and learning the Quran. So Yusuf, demand for part 3 for sure. Aisha Ismail has put, one of the best courses I have attended. That is so welcoming, and more importantly, from a Turkish Cypriot perspective, I think that's so important. I'm so grateful for the fountain of knowledge. Oh, I love that imagery. What a metaphor. Beautiful. That Yusuf and Hussain Hoxha have shared with us so far. Gul Neil has put, oh, I've scrolled too far up. Hang on, I'm going to come back down. Gul Neil, if we can find her again. Oh, I scrolled massively up.
Oh, it's on the screen, I think.
Yeah, I can.
Oh,
If
there
we
it is. If we
forward,
missed her accidentally, should we still fast if we can?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not obligatory to.
You make intention and you still fast.
Yeah.
And you can make intention up to midday that day. That's fine.
Okay, so that's okay. All right. Oh, I have quite many a time. I've just carried on, really. Nurgil has put, we are honoured, Yusuf and Hoxha. I'm giving up your time for us. And then my dad has put a comment. Whoa! Shout out for my dad. And he's put, thank you all for such a fantastic program. Wow, that's the first.
Lovely.
Yusuf, you've got the magic. That's brilliant. And Hussain Hoxha. Oh, it keeps scrolling up. There's so many comments. April Mehmet again. I think Hussain Hoxha helps people to understand Islam with his stories. So true, Hussain Hoxha.
I'm a good storyteller.
You are. You are. And well done to Melda. Mehdi Ismet all the way from Cyprus. Susanna's put, well done, Melda. Amazing what you're saying. Resonates with me too. You see, lots of people like-minded, lots of hearts. Mehdi Ismet, hello everyone. Great show as ever. Hello to my cousin Hoxha. Wonderful Fulya and everyone on this show. And thank you. And I'm going to get back to you, Mehdi, tomorrow about the program.
Yeah, I want to have you on the show actually too.
Yes, definitely. And Mehdi's put, can you support us? Of course he will, definitely.
All the time.
Best Facebook group, April Mehmet, civils sending hearts. Aisha Ismail beautifully said, Melda, Aysen and Honey, civils, but amazing show. So proud of you guys. Love you to bits. Lots and lots of Beth Jet has put, Salam alaikum, Hussain Hoxha, fantastic show. Allah Hashukur, you and these wonderful people are on the Islamic journey and realization they are making. I mean, it's just so positive. Nesh has put, thank you all so much for an inspiring and enlightening program. I'm just going through. Amber's put, that's really nice. Islam is love. Totally agree. So, Yusuf, are we going to have a part 3? Not to put you on the spot.
Potentially. I think let's go through the rest of the existing course. But I just want to say that, if I may,
yes, of course.
That actually the real honour is mine. I'm absolutely honoured, as I said before, that so many people from around the world have made the effort to attend the course and are actively engaging in it and benefiting from it, and that it's actually impacting who they are and who they want to be, etc. And I think there's this saying that I actually once read in the Quran, and it said something like, don't be like donkeys carrying books. I thought it was a really profound statement, that sometimes we learn all these things and we don't really implement it. But hopefully on this course, yes, there are some bits which are quite academic, but then there's other bits which are a lot more spiritual. And hopefully we can what's the word? We can purify our hearts and become better people, and that's ultimately what it's all about, right? I don't think anyone on the course is a bad person either, but I think it would be arrogant for us to say that we have no room for improvement. I certainly do. I'm not perfect. I've got a long way to go, and I think being on the journey with all these people has been really useful for me in my journey, and just listening to their questions and embarking on the journey together has been brilliant. So it's actually me that's thanking first Allah, Alhamdulillah, and second of all everyone else who's been part of the course, and particularly to Hodja as well, right? So it's not just my course. We've been definitely doing a tag team, and he's a big inspiration to everyone in the community, and yeah, I think is there going to be a part 3? Potentially, we'll see. Let's get through this one.
Anyway, it's been a wonderful journey, and I'm sure you will be doing a lot for our community, Yusuf. Anyway, whether it's a part 3 or something else, it will be something worthwhile for us to be part of, because you give without wanting to receive anything back, but actually, you're so grateful for everything, and you've done a lot for us. So thank you very much. Hussain Hodja, what would you like to say? We've got to wrap up now. Our program's gone on.
I didn't say this in the beginning. I want to wish everybody a very, very blissful, healthy, one full of prosperity Ramadan. Be safe wherever you are. Be healthy. Fast if you can. Only if you're healthy enough to fast. If you're not, please take the advice of Dr. Fulya, amazing person to have on the show. Really admire her. I try to watch her every time. I want to thank Yahioglu TV. Yahioglu TV has been inspiring, brought so many people together on different platforms, doing amazing things, not just about spirituality or religion, but culture, music, everything. It's embracing all segments of society. I just want to remind our viewers, every evening, just after 8 o'clock, we are here, Yahioglu, with a special iftar program. Special quotes, the live prayer, and also the iftar du'a. First ever in the UK, Yahioglu TV.
I love it. Yes, so I was just about, you took the words out of my mouth, essentially. You see, we're in line now. We're in tune with each other. I was about to say, every night on Yahioglu, the iftar program, with obviously your prayers and Yusuf's prayers. And your quotes of the day, and I've got my little bit at the end as well with my inspiring quotes. Mine are a little bit more positive affirmations, positive thinking. They're a bit more sort of spiritual and educational rather than specifically for any faith. But I think it's been a lovely collaboration this year, and I think it's wonderful. So don't miss that at iftar time as we're breaking our fast. Please listen to Hussain Hodja praying and opening our fast together, and then obviously our food for thought of the day as well. It's been really, really enjoyable. I really enjoyed recording that, and it's been great. And I've been posting it on my Instagram as well, and I've had people from the United States, like from the fashion industry, like saying, what is this program, and tuning in. It's just amazing the sorts of people we have reached with our iftar program. I can tell you, it's been absolutely phenomenal. Ainel has just put, will always want to take part in any other courses led by Hodja and Yusuf. Amazing input by Dr. Fulya. Thanks, Yahioglu TV. Happy Ramadan to all. At that point, I think we'll wrap up the program. Thank you very much for our audiences for watching. Thank you very much to our panel of amazing guests. Thank you, Hussain Hodja, for co-hosting with me. And I look forward to our Turkish program next, I think it is, next Friday. So that will be very inspirational for me and very different. So I look forward to that, and tapping in more to our Turkish community. Hopefully you all have a lovely evening. That's it from us from Yahioglu TV. Thank you. Good evening. Bye.
Biliyor musun? Erken rezervasyon başladı. Yazın en renkli fırsatları cyprusparadise.com'da. %40, %50 hatta %60'a varan kaçırılmaz indirimler. Erken rezervasyon yap, uçak bileti fiyatına paket tatili al. Uygun fiyata Kıbrıs tatilinin adresi cyprusparadise.com. Zaman akıp gitmeden acele edin. Bir bakmışsınız yaz gelmiş. Cyprus Paradise. Tatiliniz bizimle güvende.
Kalitenin, güvenin, hızlı teslimatın adresi Ancon Furniture. Ancon Furniture ailesi olarak yeni ürünler ile hizmete devam etmekteyiz. Yeni model koltuk takımlarımız, yatak mekanizmaları bir dokunuş ile açılıp bir dokunuş ile kapanabilmektedir. Bir dokunuş ile açtığımız yatak mekanizmasının yatak çarşafı kullanıma hazır, serili olarak içinden çıkmaktadır. Yıl sonuna kadar herhangi bir koltuk takımı alan her müşterimize akıllı sehpa hediyemizdir. En iyi ürün, en iyi fiyat. Sadece Ancon Furniture'da. Bize uğramadan karar vermeyin. En iyisini biz yapana kadar daha iyisi yok.